I'm worried about where we are as a society. I've got some disturbing audio that I need to play for you, and it should be concerning for everyone. And I need to start here. What has happened in this country is we've had a democratically held election, and the Republicans won the popular vote. In winning the popular vote, Donald Trump is implementing the agenda Donald Trump said he would implement, and he's doing it rapidly. And what he's doing is recognizing what Republicans have long said, and that is that the chief impediment to Republicans being able to get anything done in this country is a left-wing bureaucracy. And to really advance and make permanent the change the right wants in this country, you've got to dismantle the unelected bureaucracy that is supposed to work for the president and stymies him instead. And that's what Donald Trump has done. And that the right has figured this out and has found a blunt object with which to use to wield against the bureaucracy. The left is melting down. And in their mental illness and their hive mind bubble on blue sky, they are headed towards violence, and you can hear it in the rhetoric. It's becoming more and more desperate and more shrill as they can't stop Donald Trump. They're rushing to find progressive judges in progressive parts of the country to issue restraining orders, and Trump is then going in and getting other courts to throw out the restraining orders. So a Obama-appointed judge in New York issued a temporary restraining order last week prohibiting even the political appointees of the Treasury Department from looking at what the unelected bureaucrats are doing, which for all the Democrats saying this is a threat to democracy, that actually is a threat to democracy, and yet they're cheering on the ability of a federal judge to block the political appointees who are accountable to the public from overseeing what the bureaucrats under them are doing. It's as if the CEO of a company were prohibited from examining the work product of their employees. It isn't actually workable in the system. And Trump has gone into court this morning to get a judge to restrain that restraining order and allow oversight by the political appointees. And obviously in this system of government, that's going to be the outcome. It's just a matter of how long it takes Trump to get it done. But so now what the left is doing is they're using progressive judges to do questionably constitutional things. And now they're saying, what if Donald Trump ignores the judges? In some cases, he should ignore the judges. But the restraint here, the talking points are becoming unhinged. They're going to lead us to violence. This is the left-wing historian John Meacham on Morning Joe.
You know, as John Belushi, that great political scientist, said, we did not give up when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor. That said, the thing that is the most troubling to me in the past X number of days was the vice president weighing in that way. Because it felt to me, and I pray that I'm wrong, it felt to me as if it might be setting a predicate for the kind of showdown that would potentially break apart this constitutional system of checks and balances.
So you're worried about J.D. Vance potentially breaking apart the series of checks and balances in this government, and you're not worried about the unelected bureaucrats trying to undermine the chief executive officer of the country. You're upset about that. But wait, it becomes more and more unhinged. Here's the New York Times reporter also on MSNBC. And notice how many of these conversations are on MSNBC.
I will say that we saw with Trump v. USA that the court does show a lot of deference to executive power. This court in particular, I think if I had to guess, it's a total guess, President Trump would probably get this court to overturn some big precedents. We saw their willingness to do this with Dobbs, but he would not get everything he wanted. And I think there's a bigger question here. If he received a judicial order from Chief Justice John Roberts calling one of his White House's actions unconstitutional, would he obey that order?
Would he obey that order? Would he? See, it's all speculation. It's all speculation. But the speculation builds to something. Here is Tara Sedgmeyer, also again on MSNBC.
You see, this is I think the mistake that a lot of people are making. This is not a good faith effort to reform our government and make it more efficient. This is a full-on assault on the way our democracy works and the way our government functions. It is a full-on decapitation. so that a small number of people like Elon Musk and the billionaire class and friends of Donald Trump, or people who are using Trump as a puppeteer to gain control of our federal government for their own ill-gotten gains. Like, this is not about the American people. This is not about what's best for America. You think it's best for America for Elon Musk and his teenage and college grad group of Doge guys running around in our sensitive systems and having access to these things is best for the United States government and our democracy and for the average American? It's not. People need to really understand what's happening. I think the shock and awe of what's happening is taking some people by surprise.
It's an assault on democracy that Donald Trump is trying to hold accountable, the bureaucracy. But wait, now let's take it a step further. We got to take it one more step further. This is Kara Swisher and Scott Galloway. They are highly respected voices on the left. They are of the left. She is regularly on CNN. Listen to how unhinged this gets.
I want to know who are these young, highly intelligent, highly motivated zealots following him into these buildings and shutting off payments to schools and Head Starts. I want to know their names.
Well, they're trying to, the local officials are trying to make that official. The newly installed Trump are threatening people for naming their names, just so you know. But go ahead.
Oh, yeah, but they can unmask CIA officers who put their lives in harm's way to try and keep our Americans safe. I want to know who their names are, and I want to see Democratic governors saying, I'm going to do everything I can in my power to use the full faith and to the letter of the law to put you folks in prison. I think what you're doing is trespassing. I think this is a coup. And be clear, just because the new insurrectionist who was elected, I don't believe this is legal. And
you got that? So it's a coup by a legally elected insurrectionist, and he doesn't believe it's legal. And this is pervasive on the left now. These are the talking points in the left, that it is insurrection, it's a coup. Even though it was a lawful election, it's a threat to democracy because the left is being shut out of power, and they don't like it, and they got to respond. And they're infiltrating government secrets and government computers, and they're getting your information. And by the way, that talking point is metastasized in the brains of people on the left, that they're getting your Social Security numbers. I'm a victim of government abuse. I don't talk about it a lot. But under Joe Biden, a progressive contractor with the IRS got and leaked my tax information to a left-wing group to use against me. These people on the left, with no evidence that Elon Musk is actually getting your Social Security numbers and prying into your personal stuff, are completely oblivious to the fact that that actually is what left-wing people inside the IRS did to conservatives. They simply refuse to acknowledge that that is the truth. That is the God's honest truth. I myself am a victim of the Biden administration leaking my personal tax information to a left-wing group. And they slapped the guy on the wrist when he was exposed. They gave him a slap on the wrist. The left did that. And now they want you to know this, but they're trying to terrify people. And so now I need you to listen to this. This is Dr. Steve Caudle at Greater Second Missionary Baptist Church in Chattanooga, Tennessee. This is a pastor in a pulpit on Sunday preaching to a black congregation. I need you to hear this.
And in this nation, I'm worried that we are on the verge of bloodshed. This is an attempt to take us back to a day that we do not want to go, and we will not go. So therefore, there will be conflict. I pray that the peace of God will win out and overcome the madness that is attempting to take over this nation. And I will say to you, beloved, no one likes violence, but sometimes violence is necessary. When Elon Musk forces his way into the United States Treasury and threatens to steal your personal information and your Social Security check, there is the possibility of violence. Sometimes the devil will act so ugly that you have no other choice but to get violent and fight. Well, someone might say, now, Reverend, you shouldn't be talking about violence. This isn't the Christian thing to do. Well, I will say, why not talk this way? Because Jesus did. Jesus said in this key verse, didn't it? The kingdom of heaven suffers what? Violence. And the who? The violent take it by force. The kingdom of God is a war zone. It is a battlefield. You did know this, right?
Y'all, that is a pastor in church justifying violence. That is a pastor in a church quoting Matthew 11:12. From the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven has suffered violence, and the violent take it by force. These are dangerous times, but not because of Donald Trump. These are dangerous times because in the left-wing echo chamber, these mentally ill people are working each other up into violence. It's an illegal coup. It's an insurrection. Donald Trump's going to ignore the judges. Who's going to stop him? Someone has to stop him. We might need to get violent to stop him. This is not healthy. You know, when you talk to coaches, when you talk to sports psychologists about athletes, if you watch Full Swing on Netflix, I highly recommend it on Netflix. Full Swing is about the PGA Tour. And they got a number of sports psychologists, and they talk about the inner monologue, your conversation with yourself. If your conversation with yourself is that you're a loser, you're going to act like a loser. If your conversation with yourself is you're a failure, you're probably going to be a failure. If your conversation with yourself is negative, you're probably going to be negative. The inner monologue on the left right now is defeatist and angry. They believe that they rightfully should have power. They believe that what Donald Trump is doing is unjust, even though the public voted for Donald Trump to do exactly what he's doing. In fact, you want the punchline for all of this? Let me give you the punchline. For all the crazy conversation out there, this is the punchline from Margaret Brennan on CBS.
Our CBS poll finds that a majority of Americans, 53%, approve of the job he's doing. That's a better approval number than he ever reached during his first term in the White House. Joining us with more is our Executive Director of Elections and Surveys, Anthony Salvanto. Good to see you, Anthony. What's driving this?
I will keep it simple, Margaret. He's doing, in the eyes of the public, what he said he would do in the campaign. There's political value in that. In fact, 70% of people say he's doing what he promised. That's whether they approve of him or not. Now, there's another part of this that continues over from the campaign. There were words that he was described as being tough, being energetic, and he still is today in big majority numbers. So as people take a look in these first few weeks, there's been a lot of activity. They're getting that general sense of governance, and that's being reflected in these early numbers.
As opposed to 4 years of a dementia patient the left covered for and made excuses for, 53% of Americans support Donald Trump right now. 70% say he's doing the job that he said he would do. 30% say he's not. And the left is furious. And here's the punchline on all of this. The left is furious at Donald Trump and Elon Musk because they actually are furious with you. They're furious with you for voting for Trump. They're furious with a majority of Americans for supporting Trump right now. They're furious with Donald Trump winning the popular vote. They're furious with rejection. And right now, in the phases of despair and anger and grief, they're going through anger. They can't believe they've been rejected. But in the process of processing their anger, from the TV networks to the pulpits, they're becoming increasingly violent. They are literally, in some cases, as I played you, preaching violence from the pulpit as justified to stop what's happening. And what is happening? Democracy. They're just on the losing end of it, and they don't like to be on the losing end of democratic action. They've convinced themselves that only they are for democracy, and when democracy works against them, well, democracy has failed. because the left will never concede they're the ones who failed.